The village of Lantan was shrouded in an eerie silence, a forgotten place, nestled deep within a valley. The locals whispered tales of the grand manor that loomed over the village. It stood on a hilltop, a silhouette against the fading light. The manor was once filled with life, now just an empty shell. Its windows were dark eyes staring out blankly. The house had seen joy, had seen laughter, but it had also seen tragedy. A darkness had settled over the manor, a permanent stain. A wealthy family had lived there. Their laughter had echoed through the halls. Then tragedy struck. The lord of the manor had lost his wife on their wedding day. The villagers believed the manor was haunted. The manor on the hill remained, a haunting presence in the village of shadows. The setting sun cast long shadows as four friends approached the outskirts of Lantan. The friends, Jake, Emily, Ben and Sarah, were drawn to the unknown. They had heard the stories of the haunted manor on the hill. They were skeptics seeking thrills. They parked their car at the edge of the village, the silence unsettling.
This place gives me the creeps already.
Come on, Ben, it's just an old house. Let's see if the stories are true.
The friends walked toward the imposing figure of the manor. The air grew colder as they neared the house.
Do you guys feel that, like we're not alone?
It's just your imagination, Sarah. Let's keep moving.
They reached the rusted gates of the manor. The gates creaked open as if warning them to turn back. The heavy oak door groaned as Jake pushed it open. They stepped inside, the smell of decay hitting them like a wall. The air inside the manor was stale and heavy. The friends moved cautiously through the entrance hall. Their footsteps echoed in the eerie silence. Cobwebs clung to the once grand chandeliers, now draped like ghostly shrouds.
This place, it feels like a tomb.
The main hall was a cavernous space. Portraits of stern-faced figures stared down from the walls. Their eyes seemed to follow the friends' every move. A sense of unease settled over the group. They moved from room to room, each one filled with a haunting stillness. Furniture draped in white sheets stood like ghosts themselves. A child's doll lay abandoned on the floor, its porcelain face cracked and staring.
Look at this place. It's like time stopped here.
Ben noticed the temperature drop as they descended a grand staircase.
Guys, do you feel that? It's freezing here. The house was revealing its secrets and they were starting to fear the answers.
The friends reached the grand ballroom. It was a vast space with a high ceiling. Tattered silk drapes clung to the walls. A thick layer of dust covered the once polished wooden floor.
Do you guys feel that? It's like the room is breathing.
A chill wind swept through the ballroom. The air grew heavy with the scent of decaying flowers. They could hear the faint strains of music, a waltz, slow and melancholic.
Do you hear that? Music! But where is it coming from?
As the friends ventured deeper into the ballroom, they noticed a figure at the far end. A woman in a white dress, her head bowed. The woman was bathed in an ethereal light. She glided across the dance floor, her movements fluid and graceful.
Is that the bride? She's dancing alone.
The friends stood frozen, captivated by the ghostly waltz, feeling the weight of the manor's tragic history envelop them completely. The friends watched in terrified fascination as the ghostly figure continued to waltz.
The woman was the embodiment of a forgotten tragedy.
Her sorrow permeated the air, suffocating them with its intensity. They knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. The air crackled with energy.
The woman stopped dancing and turned towards them. Her face was obscured by a veil.
They could feel her eyes on them, cold and piercing.
Lost.
The music stopped. A single word escaped the woman's lips. Her voice was filled with a bone-chilling sorrow.
Emily, normally the bravest of the group, took a step back.
Who are you?
The woman's form flickered, her sorrow palpable. The ghostly figure seemed to react to Emily's question. Her spectral form flickered, her sorrow almost a tangible presence in the room.
Softly. Remember me. Remember my story.
The ghostly bride raised a translucent hand, reaching out towards them. Sarah, known for her empathy and compassion, felt a surge of sympathy for the spectral figure. She stepped forward, breaking free from the grip of fear that held her companions captive.
We feel your sorrow. We are here and we hear you.
The air seemed to still at her words, the ghostly energy calming slightly. The ghostly bride turned her veiled face towards Sarah. The spectral hand, cold as ice but strangely solid, touched Sarah's cheek. The touch sent shivers down Sarah's spine, but not of fear. It was a touch of longing, of despair, but also a touch of gratitude. The ghostly bride, for the first time since her appearance, seemed to find a moment of peace.
Remember me. Remember my story.
The tension in the room lifted slightly. The friends nodded in unison. They would remember her. The ghostly bride's form began to dissipate, her image becoming more and more translucent. The sorrowful energy that had permeated the room began to recede.
We need to get out of here.
With the ghostly presence gone, the friends' own fear returned with a vengeance. They were free to move, to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the manor. And escape they did. They turned and ran, their footsteps pounding on the wooden floor as they fled the grand ballroom. The house seemed to press in on them, the silence amplifying their fear. They didn't slow down, didn't dare look back as they raced through the decaying grandeur of the manor. They just ran, their only thought to escape the chilling presence that clung to the very fabric of the house. They retraced their steps, their hearts pounding in their chests. The air grew lighter, less oppressive. With every step they took away from the grand ballroom, they finally burst out of the manor and into the relative safety of the night. The cool night air never felt so good, so clean, so free of the sorrow and despair that clung to the manor. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of their car. The drive back to their own familiar world was a blur. The friends sat in stunned silence, the image of the ghostly bride seared into their minds. The events of the night played on repeat, each replay more unsettling than the last. They had gone looking for a ghost story and they had found a tragedy. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of the bride's cold touch, the despair in her ghostly eyes. The weight of the promise she had made to remember the bride and her story settled heavily on her heart. It was a promise made in fear, yes, but also in a strange moment of connection, of understanding. They returned to their lives, but they were different now. The experience had changed them, bound them together in a shared secret. They couldn't shake the feeling that a part of them was still back in that house, trapped in the ghostly waltz of the heartbroken bride. The weight of their experience was a shared burden, a secret that drew them closer. They knew they could never fully escape the haunting of that night. The memory of the ghostly bride, her sorrow and her plea to be remembered, would linger forever in their thoughts. They kept their promise. They shared the story of the ghostly bride, her tragic tale woven into the fabric of their own lives. The tale of the friends' encounter spread through their social circles. It was spoken in hushed tones, a chilling reminder of the unseen world that existed just beyond their own. The story, fueled by fear and fascination, took on a life of its own. The legend of the ghostly bride of Lantan was reborn. The villagers of Lantan, once dismissive of the friends' curiosity, listened with a mixture of fear and grim satisfaction. They had known the truth all along. The manor on the hill was not just a haunted house, it was a monument to a love tragically cut short. The ghostly bride was not a monster, but a victim forever searching for solace. The manor remained abandoned, but it was no longer a place of fear, it was a place of remembrance, a somber reminder of the ghostly bride and her enduring love. Visitors drawn by the story would leave flowers at the rusted gates, a silent tribute to a love lost in time. The village of Lantan, once shrouded in shadow and fear, found a strange sense of peace. The story of the ghostly bride, passed down through generations, became a part of their identity, a reminder that even in tragedy, love could endure. The friends returned to Lantan years later, drawn back to the place that had so profoundly changed them. The manor on the hill remained, a silent sentinel overlooking the village, forever entwined with the legend of the ghostly bride and the friends who dared to listen to her mournful tale.